How you doing? Oh, come on. I've flown all the way from Melbourne where it just started raining. How you doing? Fantastic. Well, look, I love your energy, and hopefully I'm going to actually match that energy because I know it's getting late. And who actually feels like their head's about to explode a little bit with all the information? Anyone feel like that? Okay. Well, I'm going to help you learn some more stuff, but hopefully I'm going to give you a strategy, a system, a framework, because you can actually embed a lot of the stuff you've been learning and the other great stuff that's coming into this framework. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. I'm also going to show you some of the best ways to make money. Who wants to make more money? Say yes. Yes. That's very good. Because you know what you find in life is if you don't have a clear intention, the universe doesn't provide for you. It doesn't read your mind. Who gets that? Who understands that? Right? You want something, you got to state it, you got to ask for it. You got to ask for it with passion and with conviction. So let's just try that one more time. With another level of conviction, just tell me what you really want. You want to make some more what?
Money!
Fantastic. That is awesome. I congratulate you on that. Show me the money. I will. Look, guys, one of the reasons I love traveling is because I'm a traveller myself. I actually came here from overseas. I actually came to Australia when I was 3 years old. My parents had a vision, and that vision was a better life for their family, for their children, to have more opportunities. Are there any parents in the room? Do you understand that vision? Does that resonate no matter what background you're from? Yeah. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Right. So from that perspective, I actually learned a lot from my parents. They helped me understand that if you want something, you've got to ask for it, and you have to take action to get that result. Does that make sense so far? Yes. All right? But this is the thing that they taught me, and they taught me this model of the world. They said, get a good education, study really hard, then you'll get a good what? Job. And you'll stay at that job for a really long time and work really what? Hard. And then you'll be right for life. Yeah, who's heard of that model? Just let me see, come on, put your hand up, let me see if you've heard of that model. Now only leave your hand up, no, leave them up please. Only leave your hand up if you absolutely believe that model to be true today. No hands. Well, I want to acknowledge you for realising that and be willing to take action and stay here late to understand that idea, that concept. Because would you believe that the vast majority of people are still caught in this sleep? That, oh yeah, it'll be fine. The government says it'll be fine. Now, I've been very privileged in terms of being able to train and teach in many countries. I've taught in China, I've taught in India, I've taught all through Southeast Asia, I've taught up in Northern Asia, I've taught all over Australia, I've taught in New Zealand, I've taught in the US as well. This coming year, one of my personal goals is to also teach in Europe because of my European background. But one of the things that I realised, and I've actually taught in Africa as well, one of the things I realised was this, that when people understand what's about to happen, there are some that will take advantage of it, some will not. I'll give you a really good example. We've gone through a GFC in the world, agreed? Yes. Right? Now, would you agree that some people have reacted to that differently? Is that a fair statement? You see, when I was in Asia, there was some people literally in tears. They didn't know what was going to happen when they had their mini GFC, when the Indonesian rupiah literally free fell, and Aussies going on holidays to Bali could literally not spend enough money because they couldn't carry back everything from a day's shopping. That's how much their exchange rate fell by. People in Asia have realised that there's opportunities to be made because they know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Now in Australia, we barely got like a hit from the GFC. But some people understand that there are opportunities, there's information and there's teams that can help you get an extraordinary result, right? And what I'm going to show you tonight is how you can get an extraordinary result. And you know what that extraordinary result's going to mean, Benjamin? More what?
Money.
More money. Who agrees with Benjamin on that? Because that's what you want. And would you agree, Benjamin, that you want to do it the fastest way?
Yes.
Who agrees with Benjamin on that? You want to do it the simplest way.
Yes.
Who agrees with Benjamin on that? You want to do it the safer way rather than a risky way.
Yes.
You agree with that? And would you rather do it in something that makes perfect sense to you that you already know the basics of? Yes?
Yes.
Who agrees with Benjamin on that? Because that's what I'm going to show you with how you can actually build wealth. And tonight, because of my background, I know a bit more about this than most, and not because of what you think. Part of what was said about me earlier by Eric, and that's from my banking knowledge, my banking background. Who actually understands that banks make a lot of money? And Australian banks, some of the richest in the world. Would you agree that they've learnt some tools, some tricks of the trade to make more money? Yes? And guess what? They don't want you to know some of those tricks because they hold them close to their chest because guess what? They make the rules and make a lot of money out of all of us. And they don't want people to know how to play the game better than they do. Are you with me so far? Yes? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that my parents taught me that to get ahead in life, you have to work really hard and you've got to swap time for money, time for money, time for money, right? So my dad used to work full-time at a place called Lifesavers, pushing with 3 other men huge 500-kilo stainless steel bins underneath huge mix masters. He did that for 25 years. Literally back-breaking work. No air conditioning, nothing. Not even just the same company or career, the same job for 25 years. Hard labour. And in fact, it actually cost him because he's now got vertebrae fused in his back and lost some feeling in his legs. Now, who could do that for 25 years? Who'd be happy to just do that? But that's not all he did, because in his model of the world, to get ahead in life, you have to just work hard. Why do you think my parents wanted to work so hard? Because they did the best they can with whatever resources they had at the time, and their resource was time. They said, I don't care how hard we have to work, because we need to put, what? A roof over the family's head, and we need to put food on the table. Who else understands that level of drive? You don't whinge, you don't complain, you do whatever it takes. But not only that, he worked at nights at Dunlop making tyres, and on weekends he and my uncle mowed lawns in the rich eastern suburbs of Sydney. My mother worked at a laboratory. She glued, before the laboratory, she worked in a sewing factory, right? Sewing clothes when you could still sew in Australia, it actually made any economic sense, right? Then she moved to a laboratory. Sounds impressive, but it wasn't. She literally glued together the pipes. You know when you go to hospital for IV drips? That was her job. She glued them together and screen printed them. Now, tragically, the chemicals used in that, which were banned in Europe and banned in the US, were not banned in Australia. It gave her lung cancer, and she passed away about 1.5 years ago. The only reason I'm telling you that is my parents worked unbelievably hard and they never complained. They understood if you want results in life, you make the best of what you've got, but you take action, you get off the couch. And as immigrants, when we arrive with literally the rags on our backs and nothing. We shared a house with 4 other families in one of the worst parts of Sydney with 1 outdoor toilet. Sometimes there wasn't enough food in the fridge. Who understands that there are times in life when things are tough? Who understands that? And you just got to do whatever it takes. Many people are too comfortable. They live in the luxury of, well, I've got a remote control and a couch, food in the fridge, I'm fine. What that does is it stops you from being who you can be, and it slows down your potential. Does everyone understand where I'm going with this? So if you really want to change, you know what? There's a famous saying, if it's to be, it's up to who? Me. It's up to me. Say it a bit louder, like you mean it. If it's to be, it's up to who? Me. It's you. That's right. And so I'm going to show you how you can get some incredible results. But at the end of the day, we can only help you so far. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them what? Drink. And for some of you, this will be incredible. We designed something that would be incredible for all of you, but not all of you will get the advantage. Do you know why? Because I can guarantee you this, 100% of people who take advantage of our system get results. But some people go, yeah, that sounds good. I've learned a new idea, and they don't take any action. Tonight, I'm going to show you something that is different from everything else. And I'm going to illustrate that to you in the form of the circle of wealth. And this is what I mean by having a great framework with all the great speakers and all the great information that you can pile this into. And I'm going to show you a way to make a whole lot of money. And I don't just mean that just because it sounds good. But if I could, Alex, if I could make you an extra $100,000 or $200,000 passively over the next 10 years in an asset that you just get and you don't have to do any work on, how does that sound? Right. Who'd be with Alex on that? Who'd like an extra 100 to 200,000 just passively, right? And what if I could also, Philip, what if I could save you $150,000 to $200,000 of costs over the next 10 years. Would you pay me for that? Right? And I mean serious costs like interest rates from a bank, right? I mean land tax. I mean having to pay stamp duty up front, body corporate, maintenance, all of these things. You could add them up yourself. If I could save you $150,000 to $200,000 of that, would you pay me something for that, if I could make that for you? Yes or no? Yes. Who's with Philip on that? All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you these. I'm going to start with my circle of wealth. My goal is for you to actually be successful and wealthy. This is what we do for our members. We help them passively get to the lifestyle they want, right? For some of the clients in here, I met some of them outside, some of the people that we took overseas, some people we've already helped with land, some of the people we've already helped with property, because they understand something about property. And let me share you this one thing about property that just resonates with me, and that is this. I come from a suburb in Sydney called Carlingford, right? And I grew up in Carlingford after we moved out of this shared house. My parents bought a house there. Who knows where Carlingford is in Sydney, right? You know, it's out near Parramatta if you don't know where. It's a bit north of Parramatta. Parramatta's west, this is a little bit northwest. They bought a very average 3-bedroom, central bathroom, blonde brick house. At that stage, it was an outer area. It was like 30 kilometres out. The only reason we knew about it was because my uncle used to work orchards and commercial flower farms out there. But they bought this house on a 1/4-acre block, $42,000. Anyone take a wild guess what it's worth today? And before you answer, it's not even a good block. It slopes from front to back and left to right. It is now on the corner of a very busy road and a set of busy shops. Anyone take a guess what that house could be worth? No, not quite 1.2, not 1.5, a bit lower. Who said 800? Blocks of land start in the area at $750 for blocks of land. This house, the house isn't worth anything on it, literally. Be worth about $650 because it slopes from front to back, left to right. It's now on a very busy road next to some very busy shops. Who understands that it's a good area, but not a prime block in a good area? Who understands that? Okay? So it makes a difference where you pick, doesn't it? Come on, yes or yes? Yes. All right? So they made about, well, my mum's passed away, but my dad's made about $600K. Who understands that if you're a working class blue collar worker just doing the best you can, there is no way that you could ever save this amount of money? Who gets that? Do you know, even if you're in a good job, you couldn't possibly save that in a lifetime. Do you want to know why? A, the tax system, but B, human nature. We'd probably spend it. Does everyone get that? In fact, that leads me into this. This is the circle of wealth, and I actually want you to write this down. Grab a pen, grab a paper. You want to write this down. This is Stephen's circle of wealth. It's named after me because I came up with it after looking at when I actually ran a bank. I didn't just run a bank. I actually went through the years. It took me 3 years to go through every level of government to be able to set up and own a bank in Australia, right? And I did that because I actually ran out of funding from buying properties under my own name from my bank. I then went to the next level and went to multiple banks. Then I started doing joint ventures, and I thought, what's the next level after doing banks and joint ventures? What's the next logical level? Own a bank. So I thought, what's it going to take? Because I've always tried to take things to the next level. In fact, I'd like you to just practice this with me, all right? You want to have a bit of fun tonight? Yes. All right. I want you to repeat this after me. There's always another level. All right? You got that? Over here. Let's start it. There's what? There's always another level. Okay, great, because we're going to use that a couple of times tonight. So let me show you Stephen's circle of wealth. Average people start with a job, right? They've been taught. All you got to do is keep swapping time for money, you know, for 40 or 50 years and you'll be fine. In fact, what's the government doing right now? Are they asking you to work longer? Yes or no? Yes, they sure are, right? A job. Now, what I teach people is this. Your job is your best thing to help you leverage into where you want to go. So what you should be doing is using a job to leverage into buying capital growth assets, right? What do you think my favourite capital growth asset is based on the example I just shared with you? Property is half the answer. What's the word that comes in before it? Starts with R. Residential property. Why do you think I love residential property so much? Because it fulfills. Who's heard of Maslow? Has anyone heard of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs? Anyone? Show me. Who knows? All right. Maslow, he says we all need food, water, air, and something that starts with S. Yeah, not the other S. We need the shelter. But we often need the shelter for the other S. All right. I know there's young people in the room, so I'll be good. But we need shelter. But here's the interesting thing about property. Not only is shelter a need, it's something much more important. What could be more important? There's another level. Because there's always what? There's always another level. What's above a need? A want. Thank you very much. It's a want. Because we only need a small 2 or 3 bedroom home, don't we? With a central bathroom, with a carport. But we want a 4-bedroom McMansion with a home theatre room up the back. Correct? And if you're Generation Y, when did you want it? Yesterday. Right? And see, this is why I love residential property, because it's unlike anything else. If you think about gold or shares or anything, do you really need a share or a gold bar or a term deposit? Do you need them? Come on, yes or no? No. But do you need a property to live in? Does that transcend history? Does it transcend religion, culture, education? Have people always wanted somewhere to live and to nest? Yes or yes? Yes. All right? And so that's what makes property so unique, right? And that's why it grows so better. And this is why people feel so comfortable with it, no matter what their ethnic background, no matter what level of knowledge they have, right? So this want is the most important thing. That's why I think it's one of the best capital growth assets. Now, who's heard that when you actually build up equity in your home, or actually when you hold your property for a long term, what do you build up? Starts with an E. Equity. I sort of gave that away, didn't I? All right. But who's heard that you can actually borrow against your equity? Who's heard that? Right? You use tools such as lines of credit and things like this, and there's different ways to structure these. This is why you need a team to help you understand the most effective ways to do it. But could you use your equity to borrow money out at what, 7.5%? Thereabouts? And what could you do? Could you invest that 7.5%? Could you invest that money somewhere else, Kevin? Yeah. Now, who understands the difference between good debt and bad debt? Who's heard of that term? Robert Kiyosaki? All right. You could do bad debt, which is holidays and clothes and Harley Davidsons. Or Kevin, could you invest it in something else you've heard of while you're here? Yes or yes? Yes. That could maybe give you more than 7.5%, yes. Right? But who should you discuss that with? Financial planner. Who? A financial planner, right? You should always discuss it with a financial planner. Just make sure they actually understand that asset or that strategy. That's the only thing you should do. Does everyone understand that? But why would you do that? Because if you then invested in something that provided an income, that would be an income-producing asset. Is everyone following me so far? Say yes? Yes. All right. With that, you would generate more what, Brad? Starts with a C, ends in ash flow. Cash flow. Well done, Brad. So it gives you more cash flow. Now, here's the interesting thing. This flows around like this. If I was to ask you, Alex, who's in charge of how often you do this? Me. Or is that your wife? Me. No, she is, yeah. She knows. She knows. So obviously you're both in charge of how fast you do this and how often you do this. Who gets that? Yep. All right, come on, show me. Who understands? It feeds itself. Why have I put it in this format? I'll tell you very easily. Who here is looking to buy their first property? All right, great. All right, thank you for listening. Who's already got 1 or 2 properties already? Great. Who's got 3 or more properties already? Excellent. All right. Let's say, if I could just use as an example, what's your name, sir? Darren. Darren, you've got the right intentions, you've got the motivation. When you go to a bank, what are they going to look at? They're probably going to say either you don't have enough cash flow right now or you may not have enough savings, come back later. Is that a fair statement, Darren? Yes? Yes. Who understands Darren's perspective? Yes? Who had 1 or 2 investment properties? Okay. Brad, if you go to the bank and you say, well, look, I want to buy my next property, right? And they'll say, well, look, at the moment, Brad, you might have a good income, but you haven't really got enough equity. So wait till you've paid off some more and the rents have come up. Does that make sense?
Heard that before.
Sorry?
Heard that.
You've heard that before. Who understands Brad's perspective? All right? And who's got 3 or more properties? All right? Darcy. You go to the bank and say, look, I've got all this equity, right? But what's the bank going to say to you? You can't service it. We don't care you've got enough equity. If you can't service it, prove to us how you're going to repay it, worst case scenario. Who understands the banks are really there to look after themselves, manage their risk, and in fact, they will slow you down? Who understands that? So here's my question to you. How do you get ahead the fastest, easiest way without the banks?
Listen to you.
Is that, well, thank you, but listen to me. But is that a powerful question to ask? Right? Who's self-employed? Anyone self-employed? Okay, Michael, I don't know what business you're in, but if you've got a half-smart accountant, right, what a half-smart accountant will do is limit the amount of income you show.
Yes.
Do you understand what I mean without referring to you specifically?
Yep.
Right? Who else is in small business and understands that? If you're in small business, you then go to a bank and you show a very small income, how much are they going to lend you?
Nothing.
Nothing.
There's the door.
Yeah, there's the door. And in fact, even before you get to that point, that they're going to say, show us 5 years worth of transactions and business tax accounts, which will take you 6 years to do. And if you've got a good account, it's already too low. So do you understand it's like next to impossible to really start to build a passive portfolio if you're self-employed?
Yes.
Do you get that? Who else understands that? So one of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to create a system that every single person in this room can and should use to build wealth. We wanted to help the lowest common denominator. Why? Because I'm going to tell you my story. I built up a portfolio of properties, but I stuffed it up. I wanted to follow that pattern, but I stuffed it up big time. Do you think it's possible to have the right intentions in life, but not the right information and stuff things up? Come on, yes or no?
Yes.
You bet. And I call that being a motivated idiot, and that's what I was. I couldn't afford, my partner and I at the time, we couldn't afford Sydney properties, they were too high. So we came to the Gold Coast and we came to Brisbane to look at properties, right? But we didn't know something. And some of you already know the answer, Darcy, you probably already know what I'm about to share with people. I didn't know that there was a price for locals here and a different price for people from Sydney and Melbourne. And guess which price was higher? The Sydney and Melbourne. And now it's not just Sydney and Melbourne, it's also Perth and Auckland people as well. All right? And what it was two-tier marketing, right? And you want to write this word down because this will cost you, if you don't get this right, a fortune. And I don't just mean in money. Two-tier marketing meant that there was a price for locals and a price for foreigners, and I got bitten. I got bitten hard. I overpaid. Well, my partner at the time, she and I overpaid. My wife at the time and I overpaid by $50,000. Is that a lot of money? Yes or no? Yes. Philip, 15 years ago was 50 grand a small fortune? Yeah, who understands that? So I didn't do that on purpose, but I realised that I was a motivated idiot. I didn't know what I didn't know. And in fact, this is how things are in life. There are things that you know that you know. There are things that you know that you don't know. But the vast majority falls into things you don't know that you don't know. Right? And let me illustrate to you. Let me illustrate this real quickly. Put your hand up if you know how to drive a car. Put them up. Let me see. You know how to drive a car? Or you two? No, you're... Okay. Leave them up. Put them right up. Look around everyone. All these hands up. Put them right up so everyone can see, please, sir. All right? Now, leave your hand up if you know how a 4-cylinder, 4-stroke internal combustion engine works on each cycle, and I may test you. All right? Much fewer hands. Look around, very few hands. Right? Out of just those hands, leave your hand up if you know what top dead centre is. Oh, most of those hands are stayed up. Okay, thanks. I'm going to ask all of you guys a question in a moment, so remember who you are. Right? Because I believe we're all here for the same reason. I believe we're all at a place in life and we want to get somewhere else that's bigger, brighter, more resources, more security, more opportunities. We need money to get there. Is that what you want? Say yes. Yes. All right? Some people will get there almost effortlessly, really fast, really easily. And sometimes they're younger than us, they're not even as smart as us, they're not even as pretty as us, and it just pisses us off, doesn't it? Because it's not fair. Some people... That's right. That's exactly right. Life's not actually fair. That's just the way it is. It's how you choose to deal with it. Is that a fair statement? All right? Some people will get there eventually, but they'll meander because they're not exactly clear on what they want. They're not sure they want to make money. They go, oh, it'd be nice to meet some new people, nice to learn some information. All really important, but they haven't prioritised and got clear on their goals. Who's following me with this? Say yes? Yes. All right? Now, let me ask you this. $1 million. Let's say your goal was $1 million. You worked out that's the number you need. What's your name, sir?
Dane.
Sorry?
Dane.
Dane. $1 million when you're 21, Dane. Or $1 million when, what's your name, sir? Jack. $1 million when you're 71. Which one would you prefer? They're both $1 million. It's the same end goal. But does money have a time value to us? Who would rather get it when there's 21? All right? So, here's my point. You have to take action in life when? Not eventually, because you'll probably forget about it because all these other priorities will come in. Particularly if you're a parent, you're always busy with kids, agreed? All right? You got to take action, you got to prioritise and make it urgent now, straight away. There's one other category of people, and these are the people that get distracted all the time, they procrastinate, don't know what they want, the wind blows them round and round, they end up frustrated, and who do they blame? Who do they blame? Everyone else and the world around them. Who knows people like that? Who's related to people like that? It's hard, but you just got to show up and help them when they're ready. So here's my question. Those of you who knew what top dead centre was, put up your hand again, please. Just those people, answer me this. If I didn't get my top dead centre correct, would it impede my performance getting from A to B? Yes or no? Yes. Yell it out. Yes. Okay. Most of you have no idea what I just said, and for those of you who don't know, in the next break, ask those gurus what the heck that means. All right? But in life, in finance, in property, in investment, the same thing happens. There's things you don't know that you don't know. And they are holding you back and you're not even aware. I want you to write these words down. Professional or sophisticated investor certificate. Professional or sophisticated investor certificate. Put up your hand if you have one or know what it is. Put up your hand if you know what it is or have. No one? Not a single person knows what that is. Okay, let me tell you one of the reasons we came to Australia. Australia's fair. Everyone gets a fair go. It's a level playing field. None of this class stuff. I come from the worst financial background you could humanly imagine. I come from subsistence, farming, agriculture. If you don't grow enough crops in winter, your family dies. That's your level of motivation. And you are literally scratching at things to make things happen. Secondly, so with that, you don't waste anything. Like I remember sometimes we had no food and we had large, who knows drippings on bread, right? And if you're lucky to get a bacon bit in there or something, you would just, oh my God. And because we were Hungarian, we put paprika on it. It was a fantastic meal, right? But subsistence farming, number one. Massive scarcity. Does everyone understand what I mean by that? Massive scarcity. Number two, I grew up in a communist background. All my relatives come from a communist background. You don't get to own anything. It all belongs to the government. And number three, I come from a staunchly Roman Catholic background. So even if you manage to squirrel away a little bit, you got to give it to the church anyway. So you are completely, can you just put your hands on your ears? You're completely screwed. Either way. Oh, she hears that. Okay, sorry. So you're just screwed either way. Do you understand? So you're already way ahead of where I was. And do you know how hard it was for me to battle some of this stuff? But did I have to do it? Yes or yes? I had no choice. Even when I stuffed up and overpaid by 50 grand. You see, there comes a moment in your life, and I'm not talking about property now, when you stuff up in life, you make a decision. Oh, I got burnt. Do you whinge and complain for the rest of your life? Or do you stand back up, dust yourself off, and get moving again and learn the lesson? What do? You've got to stand back up and get on with it. Who understands that? Right? You just have to, because if you need to put a roof over your head and food on the table, you cannot afford the whinging time. And some people in our society have it too easy and they just whinge. Does that make sense? So you've just got to make a stand for yourself, right? So anyway, coming back to the circle of wealth, in terms of this, the reason I split it up like it is because I understand how banks think. You see, just about everything you've heard so far this weekend and most of the things you will hear about fall on this side. But what I'm talking about falls on this side. And you think, oh, it's just money. No. You have to understand something. I thought the next job was going to make me rich because I'd earn more what? Starts with C, ends in cash flow. I would earn more cash flow. Thank you, Brad. Who understands that many of us believe that the next level will make us rich? Who understands that? Right? But it's not true because as soon as you earn more money, you pay more what? Tax. And what do you do with the rest? You don't save it all, you spend it. If you're not sure of that, think about 5 years ago. Are you earning more today than 5 or 10 years ago? Have you saved all the difference? No. In fact, whenever we get group certificates, we go, where the heck did all that money go? Who feels me on that? All right? So what I learnt was this is actually split down the middle. On this side, cash flow only gives you lifestyle. That's what it gives you. If you truly want to build wealth, which is on this side, you have to build assets. You want wealth, what do you want? Assets. Say it again. You want wealth, what do you want? Assets. Right? Cash flow is good, but cash flow comes and goes, and your life automatically just adjusts. You are serious and committed. You've got to focus, how do I get assets? And this is where banking comes in. Because the most important word that you must understand is this word. And you better write this down too. What's the word? Gearing. Does it say OPM? Who thinks that OPM is the same as gearing? OPM stands for what? Other people's money. Why do people love to invest in property? Because it's great. Because if you only have a small amount of money, you can go to a bank and rent the rest. So instead of having this amount of money working for you, you can have 5 to 10 times as much money working for you. Who thinks that sounds like a good principle? Right? That's other people's money. That's gearing. But in life, there's always what? Another what, Peter? Another level. Because OPM is already a good level. But I'm not here to teach you basic strategies. What do you want to learn? Simple or advanced strategies? Okay, those three people come over here and I'll tell you the secret. What do you want? Advanced strategies, all right? So with advanced strategies, imagine this. What if you could do the same outcome of gearing with banks' money, but gearing without the cost of gearing, without the headache of gearing, without the risk of gearing? Because Michael, can I be straight with you? As a business person, if you go bust for whatever reason on your home loan or your business, it's going to have a massive impact. They're going to liquidate you, the banks will come after you, they'll liquidate you, and it'll hit your credit score, and you will not be able to borrow for 5 to 7 years. Do you know the market will have moved substantially? And then after that, you've got to then build your business, do your tax returns. It might be 10 to 12 years before you get back in the market. Do you understand how much money you've missed out on? Who understands that, right? That's a tragedy. And that's what will happen to most people if they do things the wrong way. In fact, with me, I made that mistake. I bought some properties, I stuffed up, but then I learned to have the right team and the right education around me, and I then took it to another level. I went and borrowed from my banks when they said no more. When most people give up, I went to other banks. They lent me some more. When they said no more, I then did joint ventures. When they said no more, I went and opened up a bank myself. I just don't give up. My parents taught me this. If you want a result in life, you just got to work bloody hard. And you don't give up. Most people just give up too easily. Is that a fair statement? All right? So I've learned to be dogged. And then sometimes I even forget to eat because I'm just so focused on what I've got to do. Right? I used to, when I was at high school, not sleep for often 2 days. So I was just so focused on what I was doing. Right? So to me, it's about that outcome. But here's the problem. I was so driven to build up a portfolio because I didn't want myself and my partner to work and slave away. I wanted to have time with kids, or to have time to make kids, which is fun as well, right? But I wanted that result. So I learned some new skills from my new team, learnt that there was some good information, some really bad information. And then I built a portfolio in the next 3 years after that, took out 40 properties, settling 26 of them to a value of $10 million with very little money out of my pocket. Who thinks that sounds awesome? Yep. Okay? Put her hands on her ears.
She said it before.
All right, okay. It was a crap result. Now you're thinking, well, hang on, how can that be? Let me tell you what happened. They are all negatively geared. Who knows what negatively geared means? It means you've got to find maybe $2,000 or even up to $3,000 or $5,000 per property. You multiply that by 26. Who understands that that is enormous pressure? Like enormous. And that's if things are going well. That's your best case scenario of having to find $2,000 to $5,000 times 26, or whatever the number was at that any particular moment, every month. Best case scenario. But life has some challenges that it throws against you sometimes just to test how you're going to react, doesn't it? And in fact, my best case scenario went to an awful scenario. Not one wheel fell off the wagon, all the wheels fell off the wagon at the same time. Whole bunch became vacant. The 2 jobs I was working, they both went bankrupt. One went into administration, one went bankrupt. They owed me well over $100,000, which I was paying 20% interest on my credit cards on, right? My wife left me. I had a whole lot of health issues. I had to sell the place I was living in. There was a penthouse overlooking the beach between Christmas and New Year. Do you think that's the best time to sell any property, by the way? No. Took a bath on that as well. And so I wasn't in a happy place. Who understands that? So let me tell you, I've been up and down many times in my life. Up is obviously better, but I've realised that I don't need a lot of money to be up. In fact, it's the experiences I have in terms of giving to others and sharing with others. Because I thought I was taught money is bad. Money's not bad. Money is an amplifier of who you are. If you're a good person inside and you want to help other people, can you help more people? Yes or yes? Right? And that's what money allows you to do, to help family, friends, the community, society, the environment. It's your choice, but it gives you power to help others beyond what you're capable of by yourself. And that's why it's so important to do it as soon as possible. See, when I thought that you could actually do this in Australia's level playing field, you can't, because the tools that will help you get there, in fact, does anyone have a feeling deep inside that the rich seem to get richer faster than the average person? Does anyone have that belief? Right? Well, it's true. Do you want to know why? Because of what I said to you, the Professional Sophisticated Investor Certificate. If you go to asic.gov.au and do a Google search on there on Professional Sophisticated Investor, you will learn something that will make you mad as hell. And it made me mad as hell. And that's what I use for my motivation. There are things that financial planners, by law, are prohibited from ever telling you about. Tools, strategies, investments, they're not allowed to share with you. Elite strategies, they're only allowed to share with the rich and the wealthy already. You don't believe me? Go to asic.gov.au, type in the words. Do that for your homework. Professional Sophisticated Investor Certificate. This is why you need people who know about these and can help you to get access to elite strategies. This is what we do for our members all the time. Imagine being able to buy property with a fraction of what you think you need in the highest, fastest growing areas. Hang on to it for as long as possible with no costs all the way through. Who thinks that sounds like a pretty good formula to build wealth? And what if you could do it in a really tax-effective way? What if who's over 50 in this room? Philip, if you don't mind me saying, you're going to be over 50? Okay, let's say Philip's over 50. What if there was a way for you to set that up in a way that you could build a whole portfolio of positive cash flow properties, and then when you sell, and you're under no pressure, you could sell them because they're positively cash flowed, you could wait till the peak of the market to make the most amount of money. They were cash flowing until then, and you sell them, and then you pay no tax on it at all. Would that sound pretty good to you? Who else does that sound pretty good to? Right? Because this is some of the stuff that we teach people at the next level. Because there's always what? Another level. So we can teach you stuff how to get started, but we can also take you on a journey with our team of experts to however far you want to go. That's what we do. We help you build money the fastest, simplest, easiest way in something you already understand. Put your hand up if you live in a house at the moment or have ever lived in a house. Great. Turn to the person next to you and tell them, you understand property. Tell them, thanks, I'm a genius. All right? Because this is what we're actually going to show you, how to do it, but at a whole different what? Whole different level. All right, so now I know Conrad's actually shared with you some of these things, so I'm going to run through a whole bunch of these sorts of things because some of you are here. I'm just going to remind you, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. All right? But my goal was how do we help everyone, no matter where they're at, to build that portfolio the fastest, easiest way. All right? I'm obviously here to share with you knowledge. I don't know each of you personally. I can't give you advice. We've got a team out there. They'll help talk to you and then refer you to the right people like Warren or any other accountant or financial planner who meets your requirements. Okay? The super rich. Does success leave clues? Yes or yes? All right? You've probably seen all of these guys. I just want to use one, Robert Kiyosaki. This is what he says. An investor's most important tool is information. What is it? Information. Without good information and education to understand it, investing becomes guesswork. You become like I was. When I started, I was a motivated idiot. I took massive action. I lost 50 grand. You see, you pay for education one way or the other, either up front when you're in control or when you realize, oh my God, have I really just done that? Who understands that? And the older you get, the more often you realize that it's possible and it's happened. Okay? So this is a short little video from Jamie, and I want you to just listen to why he's so excited about what we're about to share.
Jerry McIntyre here from 21st Century Education. I want to share with you a particular strategy that I use personally as an investment strategy, and it's quite a unique strategy. It's something that I'm very excited about, and one of the reasons I'm excited about, one of the reasons I set up 21st Century Property Direct, which is one of our divisions within the 21st Century group of companies, was I found when I was buying my first property many years back, it was probably the first one or two properties was the most challenging, most difficult. And so we set out a mission to set up a company that would help educate our members on real estate, those who wanted to invest into property, but also to be able to provide a service to help our members be able to at least get into their first one or second property, which is often the most difficult step. After that, it's a lot easier to accumulate more properties. So what I'm excited about is a particular strategy that I call land banking. This is a strategy that some of the wealthiest people in this country use to make, we're talking not millions of dollars, to make billions of dollars. Actually, the most wealth in real estate in Australia has been created through actual land banking, where very large developers will go out and originally and buy acres of farmland close to cities or even regional cities, and then over time they'll get those rezoned into residential land lots, and then they'll divide them up obviously and turn them into housing estates. That process of adding value to that original farmland into residential house lots when then houses are built adds literally thousands of % increase on the value of the land, and that's why people these days will pay $300,000, $400,000, up to $500,000 or more, depending on the location, for a house block to build a house on. So for the average person though, many of these strategies that you say, that's okay for the wealthy people, the sophisticated investors. What if I'm just starting out? How can I take advantage of a strategy like that? Well, the video you're about to watch is by one of the CEO of 21st Century Property Direct, and he's going to go through how do you access land banking as a strategy. Now, what's exciting about it is that many people don't have a lot of spare cash to start investing. This strategy now, the way that it's been done, is possible for the average person to access. Literally, if anyone has, the average Australian has at least $25,000 to $30,000 in their superannuation account as an example. This is a strategy that many of our members will use their super fund. So if you have only that amount of money in your super, or even if you don't have that, you can pull it together sometimes with family members and be able to use that sort of money to invest in a strategy that can give you significant capital growth over a period of time. So I'm not just excited because it's a phenomenal strategy. I'm excited because it helps even the average person starting out get into their first piece of real estate, and that was the mission of what we set out to do. Also, what I've asked my 21st Century Property Consultants team to do is provide a free coaching session where you can do it over the phone or in person at our head office or around the country, and they'll sit down with you and explain not only this strategy but work out a whole plan for you of what you can do in real estate. So take advantage of that. There'll also be a few webinars coming up which you'll be able to check out on the site and be able to listen to that to further develop your education in this strategy. Take care.
Okay, rather than having video, you're going to hear me. As an example, I covered, it was Darren, wasn't it? This strategy will help you get to your result of building one or a portfolio of properties with virtually no cash and no cash flow headaches. For those of you who've got one or two properties, you could actually be buying these and the bank doesn't care whether you can service them or not because it doesn't take any more cash flow and the amount of equity is tiny. Also, if you're in business, you don't need to go to the bank. You can just get started. Right? If you're young, let's say I've got two young gentlemen there. Do you guys know each other? Okay, what's your names? Grant and Chris. All right, what you could do, and we've had some young people do this who are still in uni and say, look, is it possible to put one of these in multiple names? Like, sure it is. And they could get started because they know in a couple of years they'll be working. And if this takes anywhere from 4 to 10 years, will you be working in 4 to 10 years if you're currently studying? Absolutely, all right? And what if you're older? And Philip, if I can come back to you, do you know some banks are not lending people who are a bit older now money? Do you know why? Because they say, you're going to be retired before the 25 or 30-year loan finishes. We're not going to lend you a single cent anymore. Who understands that? And what if you're already retired? Or what if, for instance, what's your name, sir? James. Let's say, James, do you have brothers or sisters? All right, James, you may not have enough money in your super fund right now, but with brothers and sisters or even parents in a self-managed super fund, you could join together and say, we're going to buy one. Now, normally, you would say, oh, we don't want to buy a property together because there's negative gearing. What if you don't provide the cash flow? It just causes family pressure. But this doesn't. Do you want to know why? Because there's no cash flow required out of your pocket. It's ultra safe. And later on, you'll see all the extra safety measures we've put in here to make sure Jamie and me and all of us as investors are protected in this. Much more than a normal property, much more than off the plan. Okay? How does that sound so far? Right. Oh, thank you for those 4 people. How does it sound? It's awesome. So look, we're all here for this one goal. We've got a goal. We want to build wealth and security for our families. Many people want to do it with normal property to build that money, right? I'm going to be just quickly sharing with you how do we do this much faster, much easier, much safer, with a lot less money and no cash flow for costs out of your pocket, all right? So amateur buyers, would you agree most people who want to get into the property market go out and buy an existing property? Because it just makes sense to them. Is that a fair assumption for the majority? You're going to help me here, yes or yes? Yes? All right. So often people buy properties because they make a good return, right? And what I mean is it's above inflation, and often they'll borrow the money or some of the money, Kevin, to buy that property, and their return on investment's about 19%. I'll show you all the numbers in a moment. But would that be good? Would you be happy with that? Yes. What's your name? Christine, who else is with Christine? Who'd be happy over the long term making about 19%? Okay, could be more, it could be less, but most people, would you agree, buy property to outpace inflation, and because it's real bricks and mortar, they understand it. Everyone agree with that? Yes. Okay, what do advanced investors do? Because there's always what? Would you like to see the next level? Yes. Demand what you want. They're making 39%. And here's the interesting thing. I'm trained as a science teacher, Peter, so I know that all of us in this room are made up about 80% water and about $10 worth of chemicals in a bucket. I'm a science teacher, I know that, right? Don't ask me, I haven't tried it, but I know that, right? Okay? So what's the difference between the amateur buyer and this next level? It's the team they have and the knowledge they have. Is that pretty simple? Yeah. But guess what? In life, there's always what? Would you like to see that? Yes. This is what the big players do when they use elite strategies. What type of strategies? Elite. That's the people who've got those professional and sophisticated investor certificates that their accountants give them that then get access to this whole world of stuff, really elite stuff. This is what the next level knows how to do. And if you're not doing it, and those people are made out of the same stuff as you or I, ask yourself, why aren't you doing it? What's missing? The team and the knowledge, right? Because you may have the motivation. I had the motivation, I stuffed it up because I didn't have the team and I didn't have the knowledge, all right? So, just a couple of things about my background. I actually started off with swapping time for money, time for money. That's what I was taught. I worked in banking for a company called Rothschilds, one of the oldest merchant banks on the planet. I learned a lot about banking at that level. I then studied through FinSIA, got a diploma in financial markets. I then went on to actually be one of the largest referrers of mortgages, so I understand that, become an investor. I then went on to not just run, but own and set up a bank, right? I'm a geek. I love to learn stuff, right? But more importantly, I learn stuff and I take action with it. I always ask this question, what can I learn and then how can I use it to get a better result for me and my family? Is that a powerful question? Yes or yes? Yes. The quality of your life is determined by the questions you ask. You ask crappy questions such as, should I be having chips or biscuits now? You're going to get crappy results in life. If you ask yourself, how do I make more money fast and easily for my family with security? Who understands that's a better question? Yes. All right? Who gets to choose the question? Not me. Who gets to choose the question? You do. All right? So, on my journey, I learnt that I thought I was a bloke. Well, I still do think I'm a bloke. So I know I'm a bloke. I meant to say that I thought that I could do everything myself and she'll be right. And then I kept hitting my head against barriers, losing money. And not only did I lose money in that 50K, I lost something far more valuable. What's more valuable than losing 50K? I lost my time, yes. I lost respect from my partner and family. I lost confidence. And that's the hardest thing to get back. Who understands that? Right? It's just the hardest thing. And that's why we're here to help you. Because we've been down this path so many times with our clients to help them get great results. You know, isn't that what a parent's thought for a child is to, come on, I'll hold your hand. Or you get on the bicycle and hold the back of the seat for you to make sure you're going to be fine. That's what we're here to do for our members. We're here to help them, to hold their hands, to make sure they don't fall off. They understand the negatives and how to take max advantage of the positives. All right? So we've got a great team of people who's going to be part of your power team. As I showed you with that diagram, some people make things happen. They were that black line. Some people watch things happen, that squiggly blue line, and the red line was, some people just wonder, what the heck happened? Right? You decide which category you fall into, and you can change in a heartbeat, as long as you make that decision. Because when is the right time? Well, time's ticking. You know what? The older I get, the more I realise time is accelerating. Does anyone have a sense that time is going faster? Does anyone have a feeling about that? So if you don't start doing something, nothing's going to change, and you know that. Things don't change, things don't change. So you've got to get onto it as soon as possible. When? Now. All right? So this is what my definition of wealth is: doing what you want, when you want, with whom you want, unless you're married, of course. All right? Wherever you want, as much as you want, as soon as possible. Basically, it's there because we want security and choice, because everything comes from that. You see, I'm probably the most conservative investor in this room. I want to eliminate and mitigate as many risks as possible, because guess what? The blue sky just looks after itself. I'm not here to sell you blue sky. I'm here to say to you, let's work out a way to mitigate all the risks and maximize things, because if you then follow that system for a long time, you're going to get incredible results. And whether your results are, whether your goals are to meet someone beautiful or perfect, maybe have a family home, maybe spend time with your extended family, maybe get the toys that you want, travel to exotic locations. You know, for me, it's about contribution. I really enjoy contribution. I get a lot of fulfillment from it. So all I'm going to say to you is, if you're serious, you've got to have a strong why. This is why we can only work with people who have a strong why, who know what they want and are willing to actually put some action into place. Because those people we can help tremendously. Other people go, oh, yeah, that'd be nice. You can't help that person. Nothing, no idea, no strategy can help someone who's half-hearted about something. Who understands that? We've got a great system that will help you every single step of the way and make it super easy for you. But you know what? It still takes some action on your part. Not a lot, but it takes some action, right? So, big questions, why are you here? What are you looking for? Why is it important to you? Really good question is, if you're not there, does anyone actually have a feeling deep inside that they'd be further along the path by this stage in their lives than they thought they'd be right now? Just ask yourself, why not? What has stopped you? Is it maybe the lack of strategy or information or the team, or is it the lack of motivation? Because we can help you with all the other parts. We can even help you to some extent with the motivation. But people like Eric, he's brilliant at something like that. But one question we just ask everyone before we let them join and work with us and us helping them is, are you serious about it? Because if you're not, we're not going to be able to help you. We're not going to waste our time, and we don't want you to waste your time with us. Just be honest with yourself, all right? Most average people, amateur buyers, think, I want to buy a property, right? Because they saw examples like my parents' house that went up and made them $600,000 over 20 odd years. Who else has seen people who've just bought an average house, looked after it, and they've made more money they could ever have saved? Who has seen like that? You see, that resonates with me. It makes sense to me. And I asked myself a really good quality question was, how do I not just do one of those? How do I do 2 of those, or 5 of those, or 10 of those? Is that a good quality question? Yes. All right? So here's part of the problem. You need a lot of deposit. You need to pay stamp duty. You have to take on debt capacity. And if things go wrong, you're gone. If you have to then fork out a lot of cash flow, plus the time to find it. So let's just run through the numbers. Average property in Australia, median price is about $550. So I'm just using $550, right? You have to come up with 20% deposit plus 5% for stamps, legals, and inspections, correct? So on an average $550K property, you've got to find $137,000 up front. Is that a lot of money to find? Yes. How long would it take you to save? What's your name, sir?
Brad.
Brad, that's right. Brad, how long would it take you to save? Have you got a job at the moment?
Sort of.
Okay, all right. Brad, how long would it take you to save $137,000 net into your bank account, do you think?
12 months.
12 months. Okay. For most people, that's a pretty great. Are you single? Because ladies, this is the guy you need. All right? But would you agree for most people that would take at least 5 or probably 10 years, if at all, right? If it took you 10 years, what do you think the property market's done in 10 years? Do you think it's actually gone way past you? And you've got to save up a whole lot of extra money. But the whole reason we buy properties, even though it's negatively geared and costs us cash flow, is why? Why do we buy properties in Australia? Capital growth. Because we'll make more money in capital growth. There's a guy in Queensland, a property economist in Queensland called Michael Matusik. Who's heard of the Matusik report? He worked out that 80% of the money you're going to make in a property is in capital growth. Only 20% will be in cash flow and tax refunds. So you want to get the best part of the deal. So you've got to go for capital growth. Who here has heard that properties double in 7 to 10 years? Who's heard that? It's not accurate. It's the median price doubles in 7 to 10 years, all right? And that's the most accurate measurement because it's the middle price. It's the middle property, represents an actual property. Averages can be distorted. Medians are the best example, okay? So if the median doubles in 7 to 10 years, do some properties double faster? Yes or yes? Why? Better areas, more people, more money, whole range of things, agreed? So if it was your money, would you rather the ones that doubled, James, in 7 years or 10 years? 7. Why? It's smart. It makes you more what? Money. But in fact, it gives you something more powerful than that. What does it do?
More time.
Yeah, what could you do with the equity though? You could get in the market again and compound it. Does everybody understand? If you find areas that are maximised for growth, you can re-enter the market more often and have more properties working for you, dragging you along, making you money passively. Who understands that? That's why it's so important to look for capital growth. All right? This property, I'm saying it doubles in 10 years. Is that being aggressive or conservative? Conservative. All right? So it's made you 550, but it's cost you in cash flow. And I've worked it out, and remember, it'll be negatively geared for about up to year, anywhere from year 5 to year 7, right? And then it'll be neutral and then positive. After that, it becomes positively cash flow. Are you happy with that? So I've worked out all the numbers. It's going to cost you $288,000 over 10 years. That's netting you, after the growth, $261,000. It's going to make you $250,000. Would you be happy with that, Alex? Yep. Who else would be very happy with $250,000? Fantastic. That's going to make you, over 10 years, about 190% return on your money, which is about 19% per annum, which is okay. It's pretty good compared to other things, agreed? But advanced investors may have bought next door to this person, and they may have bought a block of land, and they may build on that block of land later on, and they'll make the developer margin as well. Sure, they'll take on more risk because of the way they're doing it, but it's a cheaper entry point, $300,000. But the banks will only lend them 30%, so they've got to find $90,000. But the stamp duty and everything is much lower, so they've got to find $99,000. Now, is finding $99,000 easier than $137,000 up front? It's still difficult, but it is easier. Would you agree? Say yes? Yes. All right. Now, here's the problem. This is why most people don't buy blocks of land for long term, even though they know when houses double, land triples. What does land do? Triples. Same time frame, it triples. I'll show you that, and Conrad mentioned some of that yesterday. But you've made more money. But there's no cash flow coming in. Peter, why do you need the cash flow coming in? You've got to pay your bills. Like what? Interest, body corporate, council rates, maintenance, all of these sorts of things. This is why most people don't even think about it. Agreed? Now, you've made 900 in total. If you take off the 300, you've made 600K, take off the 216, you've netted 383, sorry, you've made 388% return. Per annum is 39%. Who would be happier to make 39 rather than 19% on their money? Great, but the problem is the cash flow. Can you afford the cash flow? Many people can't. But that's advanced investors. Who'd like to see the next level? Because there's always what? This is what an elite investor looks like. Sorry, it's a little bit off the... But this is how the big players play the same game, made of the same water and $10 worth of chemicals in a bucket, right? This is what they're doing. And this block of land could literally be next door to the advanced investors' block of land. But instead of coming up with 90K, they maybe only have to come up with a fraction of that, 35K, right? Initial costs much, much lower. But has everyone's eyes gone to a certain number there? The cash flow. What's the cash flow? Yell it out. Zero. So zero cash flow out of your pocket. Show me, demand that that's what you want. Show me. Who wants that? Yeah. Who can understand that in that 10 years, Darren, could you have saved up some more money? Because if you would have bought this, you'd have to be shelling out a whole lot of money each year. Do you understand that? 13K each year probably. So after 2 or 3 years, you could have saved up for another what? Another property. So in that same 10 years, instead of buying one, you could have bought a whole lot more. In fact, with the same deposit, with let's say 137, if you had 137, you could do one of those and have the problem of the negative gearing around your neck, or you could have done how many with the same money? Yeah, let's say close to 4. So Darren, think for a moment. Would you rather one lot of capital growth or 4? Do you want to think about it? Who's with Darren on that? And in the meantime, if you were disciplined, but even if you weren't, you'd still be way ahead. But if you were disciplined, you could do it at the next level. You could have saved up in that 10 years for another probably at least 2, but probably 3 blocks. Make sense? Who can see that that's already an incredible strategy to build a portfolio that they couldn't do a normal way? Who already understands that? Because the banks would have slowed you down anyway. So this is why these people make extraordinary results. But here's the difference. Normally in life, you can never play with the big players. By the way, the strategies we teach have been around not just for decades, but centuries. But unless you are Macquarie Bank, Australand, Delphin, Multiplex, Mirvac, Lend-Lease, Pete, you can't play this game at this level. Who understands that? It's not a new strategy. Do you understand? It's well proven, well tested. People played it for a long, long time. But unless you have $10 to $20 million to dump into every deal, you don't get to play this game. This is the first time that people at a retail level get to play this game. And you've got the global financial crisis to thank because of it. And by the way, do some people react badly to the GFC and go, oh my God, what's going to happen? And other people go, that's an opportunity. Who understands? Same facts, but it's how you look at it. Who understands that? Show me. All right? And now is an incredible time if you understand this strategy, because only 6% of Australians are property investors. And out of that, 90% are amateurs. You don't want to be an amateur, do you? No. I'll say it like you mean it. Yes or no? No. No. You want to be at least an advanced investor, but we're going to help you go to an elite level and play with the big players. But who gets to make that choice? Me. Come on, say it. Who makes that choice? You do. Not me, not the person next to you, only you do. All right? Now, these are some of the characteristics that are different between amateurs and advanced investors. Amateurs procrastinate, they do nothing. They make emotional decisions based on a gut feeling. Well, I'm Eastern European, I eat a lot of cabbage. I could have a different reaction one day to the next. Who understands that? All right? Advanced investors are decisive, they take action, they're clear on what they want and they go for it, right? They don't get distracted. They use tools and data, they use sworn valuation, they know how to control the property, whereas amateur buyers teach their children you need to own a property to make money out of it. Let me clearly illustrate this huge difference. You want to control the profit. Darren, you can always control the profit with a lot less cash flow. In fact, with the same amount of pre-tax cash flow, you could probably control 2 rather than 1. Darren, for the same amount of money, would you rather 1 lot of growth or 2? 2. Who's with Darren on that? Right? And in fact, what else does that mean? You can get into the market sooner and have the market working for you. You see, you've got a simple question to ask. Who understands the property market has made a lot of money for a lot of people over the last couple of decades or centuries? Who understands that? Understand this. You have got to get on the train. Doesn't matter what seat you have on the train or what class you're in. Who understands once you're on the train, you're on the train. And you can upgrade once you're on the train. Does that make sense, Darren? Yeah. All right? So, this is what we're going to help you do. All right? Let me illustrate this. Put your hand up if you have an investment property with an interest-only loan. Okay. What's your name, sir? Leo. Leo, would it be fair to say that you pay less per month with your interest-only loan than you would with a principal and interest loan on the same property? Yes. Okay. Does everyone agree with Leo on that? Yes? Yes. All right. So, Leo, I've done some numbers for some people on shorter-term loans. Do you know the principal's not usually tax deductible, only the interest is? Have you heard that? All right, that's general information. I'm not giving you tax advice. Let's be clear. But I've worked out that the pre-tax on the principal, added together with the interest, is often quite a large amount. And I've often worked out that for the same amount of pre-tax money in P&I, you could be controlling twice as many properties with an interest-only loan. Now, what does that mean? If there was 2 properties, one with P&I, one with interest-only. Leo, what suburb is your property in? On the Gold Coast. Leo, over a long period of time, 2 houses next door to each other, yours and an identical one next to it. P&I loan, interest-only loan. Let's jump 20 years ahead. Are they worth the same in the market?
Yes.
Yes. Would everyone agree with Leo? Yes. One, you've used a whole lot less cash flow to make the same amount of capital growth. Agreed? One, you've used more cash flow to get exactly the same capital growth. Doesn't it make more sense to use less cash flow? Yes or yes? Yes. Now, do you think there's another level?
Yes. Yes.
Leo, what if there was a way to have the same asset but have no loan with the bank? Still capture all the same capital growth? Would that be pretty good? In fact, you could do not 2, but you could do maybe 3 or 4 as many with the same outlay and no serviceability problems. How does that sound? Does that sound a whole lot better than the way we've been doing things? Yes or yes? All right, so why do properties grow? I'm going to run through this because I know Conrad touched on this. Supply and demand is what makes them grow, okay? So we've got a supply crisis. We're basically short of properties, all right? Conrad talked about this. We've got an underlying demand. We're not going to have enough properties in Australia. Is all of Australia going to be the same? No. Some places like Tassie are going to be oversupplied. If you want to make the most capital growth, does it make sense to go to places where there's an undersupply? Yes or yes? Yes. All right, what about demand? Well, we've got a great economy. It's booming according to the Reserve Bank. We've got people coming here and moving here. Some cities are growing faster than others, and some states are growing faster than others as well. Does it make sense to go to an area that is growing rather than shrinking? Yes. That's growing faster rather than just normal growth? Yes. All right? We've got massive population moving here from overseas as well, and they're cashed up. Places like Melbourne have been judged internationally as the best city in the world, right? Does it make sense to invest where money is going and people are moving and businesses are expanding and governments are investing in infrastructure? Yes or yes? Of course it does. All right? So, what's happened in the property market? Well, this is what Melbourne looks like. If you want to be a millionaire, who wants to be a passive millionaire? Say yes? Yes. All right, in Melbourne, according to BIS Shrapnel, if you buy an average house, hang on to it for just 12 years, based on 43 years worth of data, you'll automatically be a millionaire because the median price will rise to it. Real simple. But look at this. Can you see that it's just kept growing like that? Now, has it just been Melbourne that's kept growing? No. Because we went from shortage of we have a shortage of properties, but we went from an oversupply in about 97. What year? 97. If you look at that diagram, you will see that roughly around 96, 97, the prices really started to take off. Can you see the angle there is low, the angle there is steep? I'll show you over here. The angle here is low, the angle here is steep. When did it happen? About 97. When we went from oversupply to what? Undersupply. Just like bananas. When in Queensland, we had the tropical cyclone came through. There was a shortage of bananas. What did the price of bananas do? They jumped. A little bit or a lot, Leo? They skyrocketed. Same thing with properties. It's not just Melbourne, it's all over Australia, right? I know that Conrad showed you this yesterday, but I've got a different question around this. Who here bought a property about 10 years ago? Anyone? All right. Leo, actually, I'll use someone else. Sir, what's your name? Howard. Howard? Howard, can I ask you what suburb is the property in? Where's that?
Near Toowoomba.
Near Toowoomba. Okay, that'll do. Let's just work off that one. So Howard's got a property in Toowoomba, near Toowoomba. I'm just going to use Toowoomba because people know where that is. All right, forgive me if I misspell it. Roughly how much is the property worth, Howard?
400,000.
It's worth 400,000 today, and that's 2,11. And you bought it about 10 years ago? Yes. So year 2001?
Yeah, about 2001.
Okay. All right, roughly how much did you pay? Just roughly.
I built a house there, so let me think. About 170, 180,000.
170, 180. Let's just put 170,000. So Howard had a house, 170K about 10 years ago, it's worth 400. Who understands that in capital cities you may have had a bit more growth? Who understands that? Okay, but that's okay, this will work. Let me ask you this, Howard. You would have had to come up with, typically, if you would have bought that house as it was, 20% deposit and 5% for stamp duties, legals. They're about 25%, which would have been something like 90, 45, probably about 42K. Something like that, agreed? Something like that. Now, let me just tell you, one of the things I learned from my parents was to work really, really hard. I was taught, even when you're at high school or at uni, you should have a part-time job. I learned from my dad who had 3 jobs. Guess how many jobs I had when I went through uni? I had 3, right? And that's probably why to become a teacher it takes 4 years. It took me 8 years because I was always busy working because I wanted to pay my own way. I wanted to get somewhere in life, and I was taught to keep swapping time for money. Who's following me on this, right? So for me, I thought that's what I want to do. Now, I worked at a place called Kmart. Who's heard of Kmart? All right. I learned everything in life I know from Kmart, right? I learned about customer service. I learned about presentation of aisles. I learned about stock take. I learned everything. In fact, I had my first girlfriend from Kmart, so I've learned everything in life about Kmart. All right, let's just be clear. All right? But one of the things I learned was a thing called a lay-by. Who's heard of a lay-by? All right? Have you heard of it? Chrissy? Christine, what's a lay-by?
You put money down to pay off a garment or...
So you put a little bit of money down and you pay it off, or most people don't even pay it off, they just pay the balance at the end, right? Which is 6 to 8 weeks down the track. But it reserves your right to buy that item or garment at that price. Agreed? And you pay a small fee for that. Who understands that? And if you change your mind, you can walk away and you'll get your money back in some cases, but they might charge you a small fee. I used to, thank you, Christine. I used to work in the computer department. I sold Commodore 64s and Amigas. Who remembers 64s? Okay, this is what I did. When people came in, and the young people are like, what's this Commodore 64? All right? When people used to come in, and I knew all the prices of Commodore 64s, the Pro Packs and everything all around in the different region. So I would say to people, if you're unsure, Joanne, lay by it. Like it's like, let's say they were $600, it was down $50, which is a genuine saving at Kmart. I'd say, go to lay by. I'll even carry it down there for you. Reserve it, and then you've got 6 to 8 weeks to think about it. If it's not for you, you can walk away and get your money back, because that's how Kmart's lay-by work. But it'll cost you 50 cents. You know what most people said? Oh, that's fantastic. Who else thinks that's fantastic? All right? So it gave me an idea. And I've known Jamie for a long time, and this is why I recognise this as being so special. Because what if you could do this, Howard? Instead of having to find 42 grand up front, what if I said, just put down 25 grand? For this property worth 170 up front. Would that be easier to find? Yeah. Right? And then I said, Howard, pay me nothing, no cash flow, out of your pocket for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, what I'd like you to do is just pay me the difference between the 170 and the 25, which is about what? 145. Now, could you afford to pay me 145 then? Well, it's worth 400. If you went to a bank and said, I have a property worth 400, would you lend me $145,000? Who understands that that's like about a 30% LVR? Who understands that? You know what the bank would do? Howard, here's all the money. Do you want some more? Who understands that's how banks think? Howard, if you had that opportunity, how many would you have bought with your 42? Would you have bought an extra one? You would have bought, oh geez, yeah, you would have bought 6. So instead of 1 lot of growth, Howard, you would have had 6 lots of growth. Who understands Howard's position? Who else would love to have lay-by properties at that time? Because that's exactly what our system does. It allows you to lay-by properties for a fraction of the capital, have no cost throughout, and still capture dollar for dollar, cent for cent, all the growth. And you can do it not on 1, but you can do it on 5 or 10 if you wanted to. How exciting is that? Come on, let me feel it. How exciting is that? Yes? Yes. All right. So this is what our system does. And by the way, are different markets running at different rates? Does it make a difference where you invest? Because 10 years is great, but if you've got an area that doesn't grow versus an area that grows tremendously, which one would you rather be holding it in? The one that grows tremendously. In fact, you could have invested over the last year and you would have gotten a 650% difference in return if you had invested in Melbourne versus a Brisbane. Same amount of money down, but you would have made it 650% more return. Brad, is that pretty exciting? Yeah. But you know what? Next year it could be different. You see, what we do is we independently look at all the economic drivers to work out the best areas and why. And we put together the last deal we did. Is anyone here a Property Direct member at the moment? All right. Did you guys buy in Shepparton? Do you remember how much research we did on that? How many pages?
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
It's over 1,000 pages. That's the level of detail our team does. Who understands that you should never make a decision without the right information and the right people checking it? Who understands that? Right? 80% of that information was government information that we had actually got. Because if you know if the government's pouring money into an area, you know that they've done massive research, you know jobs are going to follow, right? And infrastructure is going to follow. And that's going to have a huge impact on the economy there because the government is targeting it for a certain reason, for economic growth. All right? So that's kind of what's going on in the market right now. We've got an undersupply of houses. Property prices are going to rise. They're going to make money for someone. But we've had some properties, particularly in places like Tweed Heads and the Gold Coast, not really growing. Has anyone noticed that? In fact, some of them have fallen. So let me ask you this question. What if there was an asset class that even when the property market was not growing much or even falling, that was still growing strongly? Would you be interested in that? Yes. that's a subpart of the overall market. Well, guess what? That's land. When houses depreciate, what do you think land does? It appreciates, and it's the ratio that you have. So let me explain it to you in this sort of format. If you actually have a 1/4 acre block with a house on it, it has more land content. It grows faster than a townhouse on a small block, which grows faster than a small apartment, 3-story walk-up, which grows faster than something like this, where a same size apartment is like, there's not much land content. But if we go further up the value chain, what is before the 1/4 acre block with a house on it, Howard? Undeveloped land, thank you. And that's the thing that, would you agree, you need for all properties, whether they're houses, townhouses or apartments? Yes or yes? Yes. So the question is, how do you get into land? And I just don't have time to cover all of this, but what if there was a way to virtually guarantee capital growth, to virtually guarantee you making money? Who'd like the sound of that? Yeah. All right. Now, I didn't see every hand, so some of you are obviously discerning investors, albeit young. So you obviously want at least 2 ways to virtually guarantee growth. Is that right? Yes? Who's with the guys there that you want at least 2 separate ways to virtually drive capital growth? All right. Still didn't see every hand, so you want more. So you want at least 3 ways. All right. When you speak to our team, they can explain to you the natural drivers and the man-made drivers. For our members, we run 1-day workshops where I teach them everything that a developer knows. And imagine this, a developer is going to drag the price up. They release not the whole development, they release what? Stages. Why do they release stages? Because it allows them to walk the price up. They're manufacturing capital growth. Anyone like the sound of that? Right? And guess what? The governments and the banks know it and they agree with it. Let me say that again. The banks know about it and agree with it. They're complicit in that, of manufacturing capital growth. So they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do all the heavy lifting. Darren, if you could just hitch your wagon to that train for as long as possible in the highest growth areas, do you understand you're going to make more money than any other way, passively? Do you understand that? Who else is with Darren on that? Because that's what it's about. That's what our system does. You know how they're created. Conrad went through this with you yesterday. All the big players do this. You know there's a massive shortage of houses. You know that people who've bought land have done incredibly well over time, right? You know that land, this is from HIA, grows much faster than houses. You know, this is data from Victorian government that this shows even in one area, this is the fastest growing area in all of Australia, that the house price has gone up 33% in 4 years. The land went up 55% in 4 years. Right? And these houses were amongst the land blocks in the same shire, right? So, and it's based on the same method of measurement, and this is government data. Could you go and check this yourself, Kevin? Yeah. You could go to the Victorian Government's Department of Sustainability and Environment and check this data yourself. And that's what I suggest people do, because this is what we do when we put together due diligence, because there is so much information that it can't all be wrong at the same time. But most people will wait till someone's bought a house there and houses are built and they're competing with emotional buyers. We're going to help people who see the bigger picture to get in way earlier. Let me explain the bigger picture. When I finished high school, my best mate and I drove a Valiant Pacer between Sydney up to the Gold Coast, the Bathurst racing engine, with the manual, non-hydraulic clutch. You have to break a leg to try to actually change gears on, right? That's a Hemi, yeah. It actually used so much petrol that I had to win money at Jupiter's to pay for my share of petrol back home. But I remember that this is almost 20 years ago. What was there between the Gold Coast and Brisbane then? Who remembers? What was there? Leo, what was there? Bushland. Nothing. What is there now? Toowoomba, everything. 8-lane freeway. It's full on either side. If you understand that every single suburb, every single city in Australia and all over the world started exactly the same way, if you can have that extra little bit of vision that most people don't have, you can clean up under our system. Because you know it's going to happen anyway, right? Land has grown. This is RP data. It's showing in 8 years it's gone up 2.5 times. It's on track to double in what? Triple in 10 years. even when the volumes are really low. Do you see that year that the volumes were really low? Right? The price still continued pretty much up because governments and banks are complicit and it's controlled to go up, right? Even if volumes drop. And they've got many ways to actually make sure the capital growth keeps on going. So, what you've got to do is if you want a great result, you've got to line up all your ducks. You've got to have the right team, the right information. And part of that is research. So you've got to have the best area in the world, which is Australia, one of the strongest states. And based on our research, one of the strongest states economically is Victoria. You've then got to find one of the strongest cities where the best value is. Then you've actually got to find lots of government and private money flooding into that area. Then you've got to find the right development and get it on the right terms. And what I mean by that is putting a fraction down and letting it do all the work for you. So you want to write this sentence down. You want to make money, and property is a great way to make it. You want to control the right property, which could be a block of land, the right way, with minimal down, maximum time frame, with nothing out of your pocket. Who thinks that that's a really good sentence? Because you should be aiming for that every single time you buy property. You want to control the right property, the right area, the right way, with minimal down, little or nothing out of your pocket for as long as possible in a high growth area. Does that sound exciting? Let me hear you. Yes or yes? All right. So, if you want to play the game like the big players, if you understand that they think differently, they have the right team that supports them, and you actually understand the numbers, let me now show you an example of how we put this into practice. This is one of the areas we're looking at, right? Where we've done tremendous research. Melbourne's median price is $551. The land deal that we've currently got is $285. Ladies and gentlemen, is that much more affordable? People in that area, yes, they earn a little bit less. It's still it's still a major city in Australia. But could you imagine a mortgage on 285 is much more affordable than one on 551? Yes or yes? Does that appeal to many more people? Yes or yes? All right, so many people are moving there. In fact, its population growth, instead of 1.6, which is one of the highest in Australia for a capital city, is 3 to 4%. Massive. It's got vacancy rates, a fraction of Melbourne, and it's got rental yields well in excess of Melbourne. As an investor, you don't get emotional, you look at the what? You look at the numbers. Say it again, you look at what? Numbers. Are they good numbers? Yes or yes? All right, so this area in Acacia Banks, it's got great lifestyle. Lifestyle that in regional cities, major regional cities, you don't normally find, and a diverse economic base you won't normally find. This is what's taken us nearly 12 months worth of research in this area. But this is the clincher for me. There is $1 billion, not a million, $1 billion being spent by state government in this area. And that will create tremendous jobs over the next 5 to 6 years. All right, that's a major extension to a hospital, be a teaching hospital, right? This area has got over 120 educational institutions, all up to 3 universities, one of which will be a teaching hospital. Who knows why that's incredibly valuable? It's about an hour, just over an hour out of Melbourne, with train and great car links. Why is a teaching hospital really, really important? Who is ageing? Baby boomers. Sea change is no longer a good option because of rising sea levels and the restrictions local councils have. Where do you think baby boomers are moving? Somewhere they can sell their big family home, have a whole lot of money left in the bank so they can go and travel or do whatever they want, or hopefully not run out of money and die. So they want to keep as much as they can. They'll buy somewhere much better value, but they want to be near what? Hospitals. High quality hospitals. Who understands that? That is a major driver. And because they have a lot of dispensable income, what do they want to do? Is they're going to spend it locally. All right? So this area also, its growth rate for land, I want you to write this down, is 11.4%. Write it down. How much is it? 11.4. So I'm going to work it out is what if you bought an average block there for 100K and let's just work off 10%. Is that being aggressive or conservative? I'm being more than 10% below the current long-term growth rate. Agreed? So at 10%, Dane, you buy a block of land And by the way, how much work do you think you need to do on that block of dirt?
Zero.
How much?
Zero.
Zero. Who's with Dane on that? Zero. Who understands you could go on and get married, get educated, raise kids, travel. You could do whatever you want to do, and it's not going to impact your life by doing something like that. You don't have to get on a computer, you don't have to think, and you got no bank. You can't go bankrupt. The bank's not going to come after you if something goes wrong. Who understands this is safe? It's easy. It's simple. It's gearing without the cost of gearing. It's also no costs out of your pocket for up to 10 years. It's also flexible because some of you might want to make more cash flow sooner, so you may want to sell it beforehand. But I always wait till the fruit is ripe. Why? Because then you get the most value from it. Who understands that? Okay? So, in fact, just on that one, if I could make you 160K, Dane, passively, how many of those would you like? 5? What would you pay me for it? Okay, that's fine. But Peter, if I could save you 150 grand worth of costs, would you pay me 25 to 35 grand for that? Okay, great. That's just the costs. But if I could also make you 160 grand, would you pay me 7,700?
Yeah.
You sure? How many times would you do that?
So I ran out of cash. And I find some more.
Guess what? I'm only going to charge you once. Do you like the sound of that?
Yeah.
Because we're here to support people that are serious. You show us you're serious once, we'll keep working for you. Make sense? For up to 5 years. Right? You can do as many as you want, but you need to prove to us you're serious. You know what banks do to prove you're serious? They want hurt money. They want 20% down. They want skin in the game. We want the same thing because we can only help people that are genuine and serious. Is that fair enough?
Yes.
Come on, is that fair enough?
Yes.
All right? So, remember, the average buyer, they're actually getting into this property. They're usually competing with other emotional people. They're buying that property with a contract of sale. Advanced investors get in earlier. Advanced investors get in earlier and they're using an off-the-plan contract. Who's heard of an off-the-plan contract? Right? In our contracts, we've added all this extra stuff to give you more safety, more protection than you'll ever be able to get. Why? Because we can use leverage and our knowledge and skill. Because you know what? I'm answerable to Jamie. If he's not happy, I have to make sure he's happy. But so is Conrad and so is all of our team because we're all investors and we're going to be buying more than any of our clients. But here's the difference. Even with the knowledge and skill that we have, I can't get the same deals without you. Why? Because if I'm buying one, I don't get much of a discount. If I'm buying 10, I get a bigger discount. If I'm buying 100, I get a tremendous discount. But if I have thousands, who understands that we all win together? Who gets that? Right? That's what this system was set up to do. Now, what we're doing is we're going to level beyond advanced investors. We're going to elite strategies. You can lay by your block of land using our specific option, land option, not to be confused with share market options. They're different, similar but different. But using our specific contract with all these extra safety features in there, you get to lay by your block of land and no more costs out of your pocket for up to 10 years. If you're older, you can make it as short as 4 years. But for most people, they want to go as long as possible with no costs out of their pocket. Who understands that? And if you want to get out earlier, guess what? You can sell your option to someone else. Or if the market completely crashes, or if your circumstances change, this is what's really good. You can walk away from this. You know what happens when you try to walk away from an off-the-plan contract or a normal property? They take your deposit, they chase you down for the balance, and they're even willing to bankrupt you. That's what a bank and a vendor will do. If you're in small business, you're gone for the next 5 to actually 10 years. With this system, if the worst happens and you decide to not even sell it and just walk away, it doesn't impact your credit rating, has no effect on you. Who thinks that's a really smart way to protect yourself? You would never be able to negotiate that with our help because we've got the leverage of literally thousands behind us. Who's starting to get a sense of this is an elite strategy? Who's getting a sense of that? Show me. All right? So it's possible now because of the GFC. The team will be able to fully explain this to you, but basically banks don't have enough money to lend to developers. They're losing money. They're going to give money as a profit share to the banks anyway. It's called interest. All we do is we say, Mr. Developer, give our members a much better deal, but you don't have to pay them monthly, just give them a better deal at the end. So out of every development, maybe 10 or 15% is sold to our members at really special deals to help them fund the process. And then they sell the rest at retail. And that's where they make their profit. So they can't make their profit without helping our members, and our members help them, who understand it's a win-win scenario. All right? That's what we do.